Thank you, Yolanda, for showing up, as always, authentically, unapologetically Black. I was moved, of course. People know I'm a crier. Um, and but it's more because you're speaking our experience and giving people a window into what's going on um, as far as the Black experience. So I thank you. It's a perfect bridge into as we move into the panel and as you say, like, listen to the voices. So often is like people don't believe the stories. They don't believe what someone's saying because they only know their one Black friend. But there's many others. So we're gonna give you a clue into other people's stories. And if you're looking to follow Yolanda on Twitter, I have it on my profile, as well as some of the other ladies today in my background. So please look at that to connect to live tweet if you do so. Our panel today will again explore the intersectionality of gender and race. In this segment, we'll cover how can we support one another so we all can claim our space and we can all let our voice be heard. Right now, I'm gonna invite people to ask you to, if you're not on the panel, could you turn off your video so everyone who's connected can see the panel first at the top of the list? In our panel today, we have Jackie, Kemmy, Lizzy, and Nicole. And if you can unmute yourself, Jackie, Lizzy.
Can you hear me?
Nicole and Kemmy. Yes, and please have your video on so we can all see you. You can come up to the forefront. So,
Can anybody hear? Am I being heard?
yes, I can hear you, Lizzy. Jackie, I can hear you. Nicole, I don't see you yet.
Oh, my video's on. You can't not see
Now
me?
your video's on. Thank you,
Okay.
Nicole. And Kemmy, are you on the line, Kemmy?
Right here.
Okay, Kemmy, thank you. Welcome, ladies. And I'm going to give you all like a quick moment to introduce yourself before we go into the Q&A, and just let you know that I'm going to ask about 4 questions and the ladies will move amongst each other answering them, and then we will open up questions with everyone else. So you can, and Carrie will help me with that. So again, I'll move it on to you. Who wants to go first? Why don't we start with you, Kemmy? Could you introduce yourself?
I was hoping someone else would go first, but it's okay. My name is Kemmy Raji, and I am based here in Brampton, Ontario. I'm an Agile coach, mother of 3 boys, originally from Nigeria, moved a couple of countries, and I'm here in Canada now, at least for now.
All righty. Is that Jackie? You ready to chime in?
I'll go next. So I'm Jackie Chambers de Freitas. I'm an Agilist. I've been working in the Agile field for the past 12 years. I identify as an Agile coach, and I'm originally from the UK, but moved to the US when I was a teenager, and have now lived in the South in Atlanta, Georgia for over 25 years. I'm really happy to be here, and it's really good to see a lot of familiar faces out there. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Okay, Nicole.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Spence-Goon, an Agilist, Agile coach, but living in the Agile world since 2010. And I am originally born in Jamaica, and then moved to Canada, and then moved to the States and all over the States. But I currently live in Arlington, Virginia. I've been here for 10 years now. And I'm just really excited to see everybody here, and so excited that the Women in Agile conference went forward regardless of COVID-19 trying to stop everything. So thank you for having me.
And Lizzy.
Hi, I'm Lizzy Morris. I definitely identify as an Agilist. I was born and raised in the UK, and moved to America in 2007 when I was 37 years old. I've just recently had a birthday yesterday, so today's my first day being older than I was yesterday. And as a result, I've now lived here in the US since that point, and have come into what I've talked to some of my friends as realizing I'm actually a Black female for real. And there's lots of emotions that come with that. And as we talk, you'll understand what I mean about that stuff. So I'm glad to be here today. I'm glad that Women in Agile is doing this, and that we are opening the lens on what it is we experience every day.
Yeah, thank you. The U.S. does that to people where you discover all of a sudden you're Black. That we are not, basically, we are not women. We are Black women. And I'm going to invite you all to help provide some insight into that intersectionality of race and gender by sharing that Black woman lens as a professional. In this space, we talk about psychological safety often in this community. But how is that limited as a Black professional? Ladies, could you share, how have you had or in the past adapted to belong, to be palatable at work, and why?
I'll go first on that. And this is a passion of mine. I talk about psychological safety, Agilist in the Agile world. It's never really psychologically safe for a Black woman, in that I think a lot of times our white colleagues look at racism as kind of an individual act of intentional meanness, when a lot of times what Black women have to deal with microaggressions that are like 1,000 tiny paper cuts that over time make you feel small, silenced, and inferior. So having worked in Agile for 12 years and in the technology industry for over 25 years, I've definitely had to code switch in order to be accepted, in order to survive, in order to support my family. I've had to be palatable, to the point I would come home from work some days where my cheeks would hurt from smiling so much, so that people would not think I was aggressive, angry, or dominant. So there is an extra tax, and just being a Black woman in the world is not psychologically safe, let alone being in corporate America and in Agile. But I'm sure, April, you'll ask some other questions later in reference to specifically the Agile world.
Yeah, Jackie, you are just on point. I happen to have a very loud voice, and more often I would apologize. I'm sorry, I have a loud voice. And that's because a lot of times when I'm speaking, I'm looked upon as an aggressive Black woman, right? There has been some times when my colleagues will be like, "You're raising your voice." And that's because they're soft-spoken. And there has been a lot of situations that I'm supposed to be promoting psychological safety, which is becoming a buzzword now. I don't know what that means anymore. but I don't feel safe speaking my mind because I come across as aggressive. So a lot of times I am not who I am at a workplace. Similarly to what Jackie says, I'm just I wear a mask to look someone different. Yeah.
Lizzy or Nicole, do you have anything to add?
Well, I will say that training starts very early. I mean, it starts even before entering the workplace, because you get messages, at least I can speak for myself, from my family about how to act. So you learn to be an actress at work, because that is just another character that you're playing. You don't get to be your true self, because you have to spend your time reading the room to see what is the norm, or what is considered normal for the majority of people who you have to interact with on a regular basis. I mean, so I think it even starts before you get to the workplace. Just to give you an example of that, you know, I spent my high school years in Jamaica, and my mother was, you know, adamant about speaking the Queen's English, right? You cannot speak patois, which is the local dialect. You must always be speaking the Queen's English, because that is what is acceptable. So, like I said, the acting starts even before you get to the workplace.
Yeah, I can definitely identify with that. My parents are from Jamaica. So I was born in the UK, but my parents came to Jamaica when they were, from Jamaica to England when they were young. My mother had experienced a lot of, you're an aggressive, you're acting like a monster, don't act like an animal. So as a result, my mother ensured she insulated us. So my mother was in British corporate space her entire career, very successful in it. So I lived in the best neighborhoods, and I was never allowed to speak patois. If it came out of my mouth, I got a real heavy slap of, you will speak the Queen's English, otherwise you'll never get a job and you'll never get promoted and you won't have a good life. And then there's also a look you carry. And then you put British culture on top of that, you hold your emotions. You don't express how you feel. You have a very good stiff upper lip. So she had made sure that my whole life I was just my name, but I could never be Caribbean in public. So I remember going on my mother's 50th birthday, and my sister and I were in our mid-20s at this point. We were speaking patois. My mother looked at, when did you learn to speak that? Because she suddenly felt she had failed, because, oh my God, now we're going to be exposed. So in the space of our Agile world, I remember an experience I had where, because I didn't show emotion, people assume I had not been offended, and continued in an act of very extreme aggression that I had to stomach. Said, well, Lizzy, you didn't look like you were offended. You seemed very well put together. I would do, I'm British. I know how to hold my emotions, and I've been trained for years to do that. What I've been experiencing lately, though, I have to be honest, even listening to Yolanda, I'm now extremely very raw. And I'm not very good right now at not saying necessarily how I'm feeling. Now, I may say it in an extremely very nice tone, but it doesn't mean I'm not the hell pissed off about it. So it's a very weird space now. When I look and see that there are so many of us in the Agile community as Black females, but I don't see very many of us recognized. I don't see us on the Agile stages. I don't see us anywhere really. And we're here and we're working and we're doing great jobs and we're feeding our families from this business. But yet, where are we? And we are supposed to be the most collaborative people out of the entire world, because we're Agilists. So we're really about collaboration. We're about inspecting and adapting constantly. But I'm not seeing us doing that when it comes to people who look like me.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know for many of you, after George Floyd's death, I reached out, understanding that we were all feeling some type of way, but were unable to share that with our colleagues. Do you want to speak on that?
I'll go first since I went first before. Because we do code switch or are actresses at work, we have to be very aware of the things we say and the things we do. So speaking up at work, even before George Floyd's death, was precarious, right? A lot of times you hear within the white feminist movement, know your power, make sure you speak up. Even in the keynote this morning, it was even, if you hear language that's you feel is inappropriate and it happens multiple times, address that person. As a Black woman, you don't have that freedom to do that. So with George Floyd's death and Black Lives Matter, Black women especially were carrying a huge burden when they went to work, because speaking up with this trauma that we're carrying could mean your job and your livelihood. And so it was a very, very stressful time for me. And I feel, I understand where Lizzy's coming from, because it was to the point when my white colleagues did ask me, in order to keep my emotion together, because I've done so many great years of, I think, all Black women, no matter our background in corporate America, of showing no emotion and keeping a united front. I was very raw and very emotional, so I couldn't have the conversation. And I know some of my colleagues might have been in their feelings, but at that time, I couldn't prioritize my white colleagues' feelings like I always do. I had to prioritize my own. And when I was able to speak, I was able to speak from a more truthful place. But again, I can't be angry. I can't be emotional. I can't break down and cry, because then all of that unconscious bias of me being an angry Black woman, or, Jackie, why are you upset? You work in corporate America and make six figures. That can't be happening to you. I just couldn't have those conversations at the time. I'm in a much better place now, but at the time I just could not. And April and I had a conversation about creating boundaries where I was angry, and I'm like, I don't want to talk to white people. Ask me any questions. My white friends are reaching out and saying I'm good. I send them a link and books they should read, but I'm not ready to talk. So that's where I was.
Yeah. I'm gonna be really honest here. I've never brought up any racial discussion at work. And even after George Floyd's death, I don't think I even wanted to talk about it. Because the first time and the last time I ever mentioned about something similar, not death, but it was the time Barack Obama became the president. I remember not sleeping the whole night. I was in the UK and I stayed up just to watch that inauguration. And as I was so excited, I was talking to my colleagues who happened to be white about, oh, fantastic, a Black man. And then looked at me as if they seen a ghost. And what was I talking about? And no one wanted to discuss about it. I know he wasn't the president of the UK or anywhere close to the UK, but to just sharing it was really difficult. And since then, it was kind of like an awkward situation to talk about someone who was Black. And I'm sure I've said this before, I didn't realize I was Black until I moved to the UK. At least someone pointed it out. But in the UK, it's kind of like subtle. People don't go straight to your face. In North America, it's a different ball game. So with my experience over there, even though racism is subtle in the UK, I don't discuss. I would say I don't see color. And yes, I don't see color, but I would wish to kind of like be able to talk about myself or talk about how I'm feeling without being, labeled.
I think the thing we are constantly guarding against, and this is something that I need other sisters to understand in this, is we have to be careful that if we say something, it's not held in somebody's mind. So when promotions come up and other doors open, that we're still considered. Because if it goes into the mind, subconsciously it registers, oh, you remember they had that, oh, they had that little fit. I don't think that's a good idea. We wouldn't want to put them at the board table, because could you imagine if they did that there? There's these crazy things that people think when they see our faces that they wouldn't think when they see a different face. So it becomes almost impossible to be transparent, because we've got to be so careful you don't feel, oh, like this, but every day we're feeling like this. And that's the hard thing. So it doesn't matter how many times you say, oh no, this is a safe space. Oh, it's a safe space, Lizzy, you can talk. I don't believe you. My experience tells me something else. And history has not moved far enough for me to consider allowing that to happen.
So I'm gonna move forward a little, and then I'll let Nicole speak first. We spoke about microaggressions and coded language. I'm gonna invite you to share, name them. What were they? How'd you internalize it? What was the impact?
You want to go first, Nicole?
Nicole.
I was just trying to think specifically through examples. I think the microaggressions that I think hurt the most are ones that are from other women, because in the work world, it's like you come to expect some form of misogyny, like it's a man's world type commentary. But when it's other women, you feel that it's even more hurtful. And so I would really, I'm not even just going to talk about in the work world. I'll talk about prior to work world. I'm talking about from school, that you can experience things like this from childhood, and that forms how you behave in adulthood and in the workspace. So it's like being treated differently from other girls, growing up. You feel like there's some club that's going on other than, your typical Mean Girls Club that you're never going to be part of. And so that also has an impact psychologically when you go into the workspace, because then you're like, okay, well, I definitely know this already exists as a thing. So I am going to not trust anyone. And so as far as microaggressions go, it's like mentally I expect it because I've come to not trust.
Did anyone else want to share a specific example of microaggressions or coded language that may enlighten other people on this call who are not BIPOC?
I have some examples, but if anyone else has them, I have a whole list. This is
Okay. Don't be afraid. List it.
List them. Go ahead. List away.
Enterprise transformation. I talk about this a lot. I do speak out. When George Floyd happened, I was just so emotional that I couldn't. But I show up every day as a Black woman. I've been dealing with this for years. but I have a list. But I'll give someone else a chance, and then I'll go through my list.
Okay, I'll give you a few classics that I've had
Okay, Lizzy.
that people have thought were quite complimentary. Oh, Lizzy, you're so different. That's classic. What do you mean by that? That's not really a compliment, because what I hear you've actually said is, oh, you don't act like them. What does that mean? So that's the that's the classic one I get all the time. And I've actually had groups I've belonged to, and they've said, Lizzy, we'll let you go up front and you speak because they'll listen to you. Right. So I often become a voice for communities I belong to, simply because when I sit at the table, I sound different, so it gets people's attention. And I don't mind doing that because it's for a greater good, so to speak. Another one was work-wise, right? So if everybody notices most of the time, you'll see my hair straight, and and I've always pretty much either done weaves, relaxed my hair, etc. I, at one point, was thinking about just having my natural hair out, just having my braids showing, and etc. And I was told, Lizzy, do you think that's a good idea? Because I mean, with all the clients that you're going to be around, that they may not be very comfortable with that. So what I did was I had a closet at work, right, where I'd have my wigs. So at work, when I'd just be around like my colleagues, Thai colleagues, I'd have the braids out. And then when I was going on, put a wig on and look the corporate look. No other people who are not looking like me have to think about that. That's the little thing. So we're forever trying to disguise the fact we're different, because it might make people have a trigger about something. So that's a little micro our hair. Or in the comment, you guys change your hair so often. We do it because we can, and we do it because a lot of times we have to. Right? So you think about the hot comb burns we've had since children, because your parents are wanting you to have your hair not look nappy and fit in with everybody. There's all these things. It's beautiful now for me to see somebody like April who has out her afro, right? And everybody's cool with that. I wouldn't take that risk. I still don't feel in a safe enough space. I'm just being straight. I do not feel in a safe enough space to take that risk. I just don't. And I thought, publish a couple of books, and then I can just be whoever the hell I want to be. That's what I thought. Then that give me a stage to be whatever. And I'm like, yeah, no. You got to be like my real close friend to see me in my fullest, just black self.
I think I have the opposite of what you just described, Lizzy, about your hair. I mean, I cut my hair when I feel like it, and I'm wearing dreads right now, so sister lock. And I've been in that situation where I feel pressurized to wear either wig or weave, but it just didn't settle with my head. My hair, I've got scratchy, itchy scalp, so. And I had to say to myself, who am I pleasing, right? How can I be in discomfort? Because I just want to blend. So I stopped doing that, and I just wear it natural. I think one of the microaggressive for me, and not just the workplace, but my name. I don't know if people realize that my name is not actually Kemmy, it's actually Oluwakemi. So a lot of times when I use it for official, people don't pronounce it well. And I had a situation whereby the person called me by my last name, and I said, well, actually my name is Kemmy, Izolua Kemmy, but you can call me Kemmy. And they totally ignored me and still carry on calling me by my last name, even though I said I didn't want that done. And that's because they didn't know how to pronounce it. And I said, you could have just tried, but no. And I couldn't do anything simply because I needed a favor, right? So that's the kind of things, some of the examples for me.
All right.
Come on, Jackie.
Before we move on, Jackie, give people a little bit of a list.
So the first one is assuming all Black women have the same life experience. You can tell from this panel, including Yolanda, Black women are all completely different. So just because your Black friend has an experience or your Black female friend, you cannot assume that the Black women you meet in the supermarket or in your workplace. Lizzy and I are both Brits. Lizzy and I's experience is completely different, I'm sure. Just want to put that out there. Second one, home policing based on racial stereotypes. We've all touched on this. We're not all angry Black women. That is something that is always attributed to Black women. White women, when they speak up, get loud, get angry, are seen as assertive. Black women are seen as angry. Another one is expressing surprise or worse judgment on our appearance. You just heard this whole group of Black women, I see it in the chat, talk about their hair. A lot of times we have the struggle with our hair because our white colleagues are so intrusive in asking us about it, why we wear it straight, why we don't. My suggestion is just don't ask. Black women do not ask white women, how come your hair was red last week and how come it's blonde? Just don't ask. Another one is opportunity shaming. I cannot tell how many times people in coded terms or have straight out says, oh, Jackie, you're here at the executive table as a diversity hire. Please don't make those assumptions. That is not something we like to hear. And making assumptions about seniority. Oftentimes I have gone to other offices of my company, have been in a room, people only know me by name as a senior director or whatever my title is at the time, walk in the room of the meeting that I have scheduled and have asked me, are you supposed to be in this meeting? That happens so many times. And then I want to touch on what Kemmy said. You know, your name is hard to pronounce. People learn the most difficult names all day long. If you don't know how to pronounce someone's name, just ask. We'd much prefer that you butcher it trying to say it correctly and ask us than call us by our last name, or like some people I've heard call my colleagues, Black female colleagues, oh, your name is too hard to pronounce. I'm just going to call you Sheila.
Yeah.
Don't do that either. There you go. That's just a few.
Yeah. Renaming people, that's going back to slavery times. And remember, if we can pronounce, Russian composers' names, then we can pronounce someone's name. It's invested the time to do it. And more often than not, if they're a person who of color, people don't invest the time to learn how to pronounce their name. We can all do it. One more question, and then we'll open up to questions from the audience. We'll start putting them in. And I want to leave this portion of my questions on a moment of a strength. Like, we often hear the term strong Black woman. There is a burden and a truth within those words. But right now I wanted to focus on, in this moment, about the benefits that emerge from our strength. As we heard earlier, and still I rise, right? So what learnings can we impart on women as a whole, that we've taken as Black women to support us claiming our space and having our voice heard?
Hope. If you turn hope off, you'll kill yourself. So the one thing I can say is if you take hope and use it as a fast forward button and imagine it being different, it allows you to keep going. And you imagine it not just being different for yourself, but you imagine it being different for your daughters, your nieces, your future granddaughters, never having to go into a room and it be just male dominated and they're everywhere and it's normal. Like, it's just so normal. It's not like a thing anybody's going to talk about because it's like normal. And when you bring it up, they'll look at you like you were weird. What? Did that ever happen? Why did that happen? Because it becomes a norm. And so hope is the key that we can share with every woman. Keep hoping.
I would say, for me, it's resilience. Because as you've heard from all of our stories, that we still go, we still keep moving forward. Because if we didn't, then we'd be done. So I think resilience is the key for a lot of Black women to keep that hope alive, right? It's like we have to keep moving forward no matter what obstacle is in our way. And I think that a quote from Alice Walker, she said that nobody is as powerful as we make them out to be. So even if they do exhibit power, whether that's in the office or otherwise, we mentally have the power to keep going and succeed.
I am going to add togetherness. I feel that we as Black people, Black women, we've got to come together. We've got to lift one another up rather than bash it. But we have to do it. It can be hard, I know. But there are times I've reached out to Black people, and the experience has not been great. Let me just say that. But we've got to settle our home front and kind of like radiate that, and hope and resilience will be some of the tools that we'll use. That's my take.
And then I'm just going to add to Kemmy's comment and extend it even further. Yes, we as Black women need to come together, but we as women in Agile, need to come together. You know, 30, I think from catalyst.org, it's 32.5% of white women hold management positions compared to 3.8% of Black women. We as women need to start hiring other women. That's white women hiring Black women, hiring white women, and especially Black women in places of power who have hiring ability. I understand and I get it. I've gone through it. There's strength in us getting to those positions. And oftentimes I see this with white women and Black women. We look at hiring other women as a measure against ourselves, or they haven't worked hard enough, or so they need to go through all the things that I went through in order to have the calluses and be strong. I'm just going to say it. We need to stop that bullshit. And we need to hire our friends and colleagues, no matter how smart you think they are or how dumb you think they are, because our male colleagues hire their dumb friends every day.
Yes.
So that's where we need to take our strength. If there's not representation, what keeps me strong is that I see the younger or the Black faces and the women's faces when I show up in a room of 400 leaders and I'm the keynote speaker, I'm the highest hierarchy in the room. That gives me strength. That gives me hope, because I'm creating hope for those Black women and even women in the room. So that's what I'm going to say.
Any final thoughts, Lizzy?
I think the real change that we're wanting to see, and I've said this to a few colleagues, is that the change that needs to happen will happen when white women and Black women and women come together. We have the ability at the end of the day to push men where they need to be pushed. And that's going to sound extremely unfeministic, so I'm sorry, but it's just truth. We control certain areas of real life that men need. So if we come together, seriously come together, we'll make them do what's necessary. But if we don't, we're still going to be sitting here, sadly, probably 80 to 100 years later, and it's not that much different. Because I did a little project where I began to create a backlog of everything that Martin Luther King said he wanted to see in America. And do you know how long that backlog is? And do you know that most of those things have not ever come up to the top yet? If we were to create a backlog, especially as Agilists, right, and come together and do that and start to attack these things, start to raise our voices, start to hit these organizations and force some change to happen, it would be faster. So we've got to come together to make the real change that we need.
Awesome. Thank you. Carrie, what's our top question now that has formed up? Could you share that or invite the person to us to speak?
You bet. So we've got about 7 questions that have come through. The first one is from Samantha. How can I help create psychological safety for Black men and women when I'm coaching teams?
Does one woman on our panel want to take that one?
Jackie, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's hard. I have to say. I remember doing one of a team I belonged, and it did this some similar thing like Myers-Briggs assessment. And as it turns out to be, I was the only Black person on the team, and I was the only person different from the team in terms of assessment. I can't remember the number I was given, the alphabet I was given in the assessment, but I was the only one. And they wanted to treat me differently. The other ones are the type that they're meant to be creative, and they're meant to keep talking. And for my personality, I was the quiet one that don't interrupt. I can't remember the title anymore, but I wanted to be, they wanted to treat me differently. And then I insisted no. And then I got into trouble because I was speaking out. And that's because my personality was supposed to be the quiet one. So when I changed overnight, according to them, I didn't fit in anymore. So to your question, it's really hard to understand. And I felt like I was burned by changing and speaking out when I could have been quiet, when they think I should have been quiet. So I was labeled again aggressive, right? And for speaking out about things that I didn't feel comfortable with, for things that I would love to have done my own way, but I've been told to do it in a different way. So psychological safety, I think it's just become a buzzword now. Try to understand the person as an individual, rather than trying to figure out, just trying to put them into, oh, well, I know how a Black person wants to be treated, so I'm going to treat you as such, right? So don't look at the color, don't look at them being Black, just look at them being an individual and get to know them, get to understand where they come from, or which cottage they visit, how are their children doing, if they've got kids or pets, and talk to them. How do they want to be treated, rather than what you know about Black people didn't want to be treated.
Thank you, Kemmy. Carrie,
Yeah.
do we have, I think we have time for one more.
One more? Okay.
Yeah.
There were a handful of questions. Let me see if I can maybe, we'll just go for, I'm going to try and group them.
Maybe Cheryl can let us know. Do we have time for one or two more, Cheryl?
You absolutely do. You have another 8 minutes.
Oh, okay. So we got 8 minutes. Let's power through them.
All right. So
yeah.
And all of the questions are for all of our panelists, not anyone in particular. So they're open to everyone. And so there's a couple different questions that are all around how can white women be a part of the solution or be more than just a silent ally? What are things that we can do?
Speak up. speak up. When you see we don't speak up, speak up for us, because you're now hearing that, oh, maybe the reason they didn't address that is because fear of repercussion. You don't necessarily have to have that fear. So then step up. There's a fabulous picture on the Black Lives marches where there was a whole group of white women who had linked in front of the other Black protesters. I love that picture. And because they knew if we're here, they're not going to want to hit us down the way they're going to attack them. So be willing to be our block, a defense line for us, because we're all in it together, and that will really help. And then your colleagues will see you do it a lot. It will build trust, because it's not going to happen overnight.
Yes, yes. What's the next one, Carrie?
You bet. Have you ever led or participated in a personal history exercise with your team? Something that would be more like maybe like journey lines, or something that can help build empathy across the team. And what was that like? What was the experience? Positive or head shaking?
I've never done that, so I can't talk to them.
Okay.
But I think you have to do a lot of work first with building trust amongst the team, or if you're doing an event like that, creating space where there is psychological safety. I don't think that's something you can come into in a meeting, or if you're having a first hour, it's like, let's tell our stories. So it's something I've used before when I've run groups or organizations. I've taken my leadership team and we've worked over time up to that so that we can start telling our stories. So yeah, I would say it would take some skill. Everyone is well-intentioned, but again, I caution people from having your good intent then become a burden on a Black woman, and by extension, other people of color. Because we have told you about the trauma that we carry, some of the stigma that we carry. It goes back to what a lot of the women on the panel said: try to create a relationship. And I would say, do what a lot of my white allies have done for me to be able to rise in corporate America, is be a voice for me. So if you notice that, your Black female colleague often gets talked over, interrupted, make space for that colleague. You make the space, right? If you hear something inappropriate that your Black female colleague can't speak on for maybe fear of retribution, you speak on it. That's where it starts. Then you can develop that relationship.
Also, when no one's watching, speak on it.
Yes.
Carrie,
Awesome.
Another one?
You bet. One more, and that is around how to encourage more Black voices in the Agile 2020 submissions, and one that kind of partners on that, which is how do we, when I offer speaker mentoring, I find it hard to reach out to Black women. Do you have advice on how those of us in positions of sponsoring, such as opening doors, can help to make the difference?
Go to LinkedIn.
What?
I'm sorry. Go to LinkedIn, right? And just do a search. And you'll see there are Black faces there because we have our pictures out. Go on LinkedIn and start reaching out to people. Here's the thing. If you're serious about doing this, it's not going to be that difficult because we're there. So simply reach out. I can't tell you that somebody's going to turn you down and say, no, I don't want to submit. They're not going to. They'd probably be shocked. Like, really?
Lizzy, this is something I'm really passionate about. I remember meeting April last year, and she looked around, and I think there were kind of like very few of us. I don't know if you remember, April. And
oh yeah, there's always very few of us.
Then you came to me and said, I'm so glad that we are increasing in number. And I said, okay. Yeah, there are we are underrepresented a lot. I would often offer to help to review abstract, but then I am not sure why women, Black women, are not coming forward, right, to speak. There must be something that, and I think we need to kind of like do a deep soul search in here and say, why are we not coming forward? Okay. And it's not just about looking at LinkedIn. And I'm sure, Lizzy, yes, someone would gladly want to apply. And I know the first time I wanted to do that, I reached out to a Speakeasy, and they were so helpful. That was my first public conference speaking. So maybe we could put something of that nature. And the Women in Agile is doing something similar too.
Right.
We just need to create a container and give people that opportunity to grow as well.
But a lot of our conferences, sorry, go ahead.
I was also thinking that you can use the channels that you already have, especially in Women in Agile. I mean, you have all of these local groups. All of these local groups have Black women in them. And I think personally for me, it's about not being in the know. You need to publicize this information like a lot. Not one time, it's like constant promotion, advertising, whatever, to get the word out there. Because that's, especially when you're targeting specific communities, you have to get yourself into the communities to say, hey, there's an opportunity here. This is how it works. Because I think a lot of it is just because I don't, people feel like I don't know the first thing of how to even get started. It's like, where do I start? Who do I talk to? Do I even know the right people to talk to? So it's really about outreach and using every format of outreach you can.
Yeah. Like Women in Agile, I believe, does a wonderful thing as a whole for all is that's kind of a pillar. We're launching new voices, and that's for everyone, whether you're BIPOC or not. We can launch new voices. And one of the big things where I got into speaking was someone paired with me. That may be an option, is inviting people to pair with you to help launch those new voices. All right. Did we have one last one, or are we at time?
That was the list, so we're good.
So I want to just thank my panel. I want to thank the audience for their vulnerability and their questions, for taking time to listen in on us. I would like to invite people to connect with everyone here on the panel. Twitter, LinkedIn, connect with me. If you are a part of the Black community, please connect with me. One thing that I haven't advertised, which I'm going to do for the first time here, I began in the start of June, kind of creating this underground community of other Black Agilists, so you can connect with other people, because a lot of people say, I don't see anyone else like me. And right now it is for Black Agilists, and in a time we will open it up to other people. But connect with me, and so you can get connected with a larger global community. We have people from all different countries involved. That is there for you. We appreciate all of you who are here today, and for your questions. And I'm going to invite everyone to take this moment today, don't allow the reflection to end here. Continue with it. See what it spurs within you. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you, April, and thank you, Women in Agile, for doing this. This is awesome.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
What Lizzy said. And thank you so much, April, and everyone else on the panel. It's been fantastic joining you, ladies.
Thank you so much, everybody. We were honored to have you.